And there's Spencer Kuvin. He joins us now. Spencer, great to see you. Sorry about that. We came to you a little too early.
Yeah, you popped right in. You popped right in on me. Sorry. Was doing the work of the people at that moment.
It was a great conversation that we had earlier this year. And here we are all these months later, still trying to see if these Epstein files are going to get released. And as I was just telling the viewers a few moments ago, and as we talked about it the last time, you represented a lot of the survivors and victims in this case. And I'm just kind of curious, I mean, just to start out off on this, your response to this passing the House, passing the Senate.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a positive move in the right direction. But, you know, as I've always said on behalf of the clients I've represented, you know, they're cautiously optimistic when it comes to the federal government and keeping the promises that the government has told them that they would keep. In this particular circumstance, you know, this entire process has been a monumental waste of time, to be perfectly honest, because the president could have easily signed an order releasing this information had he not fought the release of the information to begin with and make Congress go through the efforts that they did to actually pass a law to make sure that this information got released. But now they have to be cautiously optimistic as to what will be released, right? So they're being told that they have to release information. But as we know, the federal government can hold back information of an active investigation or privacy issues, and then we don't know what they're holding back.
Well, yeah, and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, you know, who used to be the Attorney General down in your state, and has been a very loyal cabinet member for Donald Trump. I mean, she was saying earlier today, well, we've opened up these investigations into Democratic figures that Donald Trump called for. And that means that, you know, there's an active investigation again. And she was making this kind of noise that, well, we're going to follow the law. Let's play this, and I'll get your reaction to it, because it was the wording was very interesting.
Yeah.
By 30 days.
But we will continue to follow the law, again, while protecting victims, but also providing maximum transparency.
Madam Attorney General,
and what did you think about that, Spencer, when you heard that? I mean, that was...
It's vague.
Yeah.
You know, she's being purposefully vague.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the problem.
And it makes it sound as though they could say, well, you know, hey, sorry, guys. Yes, we know this passed the House and the Senate, but then it could run into all sorts of procedural hurdles. They could say, you know, it's part of this investigation or that investigation, or things have to be redacted, and we just don't see the whole damn thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the real issue, right? Is, you know, it's always one step forward, two steps back when it comes to the victims and their rights. Yeah. And, you know, what really aggravates the victims every time I speak with them about what's going on, what aggravates them to no end is the fact that the government seems to be hiding behind their privacy rights and saying they're doing it to protect their privacy rights. The reality is the victims want this information disclosed. It's real simple. Redact a name or blur out a picture in the face. It's not real hard to protect the victims here, but they're making it sound like it's some real difficult process to protect the rights of the victims.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I reached out to you before all of the legislation got through the Congress was there was this dump of emails from the Epstein estate that we saw last week. And I've been beating the drum on this one particular email. I know others have pointed to it as well, but I think it is highly critical. And it is this April 2011 email from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell that says, Donald Trump has spent hours at my house with victim redacted. And of course, the Epstein estate was able to redact some names here, or the oversight committee was able to redact names here. And, you know, I'm just curious what you thought of that, because to me, it's damning stuff. This is before Donald Trump was a political figure. Yep. And Ghislaine Maxwell says, you know, I've thought about that. The dog that hasn't barked and so on.
Yeah. And, you know, look, we know that the FBI and the Department of Justice has photographic evidence in their custody that was taken from multiple safes that Jeffrey Epstein had. He had a safe at his Manhattan home. He had one here in Palm Beach. And we know that he had a secure facility offsite in the Virgin Islands. They have all of the material from those safes. And we know that there were photographs in them. We know that there was security video kept from inside of his various different homes on computer hard drives. And they've already told the American public that they've got hundreds of hours of security video that they've maintained. So, look, You know, Epstein saying one thing about Trump, that's one issue. But if we could see the photos, if we could see the video, I think that the American people would look at it a little bit differently.
And judging by his reaction to the way he's been going after reporters and calling people piggy and flipping out on reporters when they ask him about the Epstein files, what does that say to you? And what do you, I mean, do you hear anything from the survivors and the victims who say, what the hell is that? Because that's what I keep coming back to.
Well, I can just tell you as an attorney
Yeah.
practicing for, so going on 30 years and cross-examining literally thousands of witnesses before, when a witness starts getting upset and starts calling people names or starts getting angry at a situation, it's because you're poking in the right place. And you should be asking even more questions, and you should be directing those questions to the witness even more pointedly. So it just shows me that he's got some level of guilty conscience, that he's afraid of talking about this issue.
And out of those documents that came out, we know that I was talking to journalist Tara Palmeri about this the other day. The documents that came out from the Epstein estate, that's different than the Epstein files. Epstein files is far more expansive. And as you said, has photographs and videos and so on. What is it that, I guess, first of all, stands out to you from the emails that were released last week? And also, how does it differ from the files themselves?
So the emails that were just dumped out from the Epstein estate, the estate had those emails because they were from Jeffrey Epstein's own personal email account. So that is very different than what the FBI collected. When the investigation began here in Palm Beach, I represented victim number one, who went forward to police and started this whole thing. And when the police refused to prosecute it from the state level, feds stepped in and started their investigation. They interviewed over 40 young girls, over 40. And they had prepared an indictment that they were going to file against Jeffrey Epstein before the sweetheart deal got entered. So all of those investigative memos, all of those interviews with all of those victims, all of the evidence they collected during that initial phase of the case, and then subsequently, when they rearrested him later on, many years later, they then obtained all of this documentary, video evidence, photographs, computer hard drives, all of that. Then all of that had to be reviewed by the FBI and the Department of Justice to determine what they had. So there's going to be investigative memos summarizing those materials, telling the people in the FBI who was in these videos, what's on those videotapes, those summary memos. All of this is the information that the Department of Justice is just sitting on and refusing to release.
Mm. And the sheer volume, I mean, the emails that came out, the number of times that Donald Trump's name is mentioned, it's unbelievable. I think different news outlets have, counted up tallied up the times he's mentioned, and he's mentioned as much or more than just about anybody else. He's all over these files. What does that say to you? And I mean, because it says to me, it's something that I've heard from a number of people from South Florida, from the Palm Beach community, that it was just common knowledge that Trump and Epstein were friends. They were close. He tries to point the finger at Democrats and so on. But it's astonishing how much he's mentioned, but maybe it shouldn't be so astonishing. And maybe people in Florida say, no, see, we knew this.
Yeah. I mean, it really was no surprise. I can tell you that in the original litigation that I was involved in on behalf of one of the victims, we actually issued a notice of deposition for Donald Trump at that time, because we knew that relationship existed back then. This was before he was ever a political candidate or even a whiff that he might run for any office whatsoever. Yeah. We just knew that he was a person of interest at the time because they were very close and they were socializing together. In addition to that, when you look at the sequence of events of how this played out, you had a candidate, Donald Trump, who was clamoring for the release of this information so the public could see it. Everybody voted for Trump that voted wanted that release of information, including some of the victims who voted for him because they wanted it to be released. It was only until he got into office and was briefed on what was actually in those files that he reversed his position. So that's got to tell you something about what's in those files and why he would reverse his position all of a sudden once he actually knew what was in them.
Yeah. And do your clients think that they're any closer to getting to the bottom of this, that what happened in Washington this week is going to matter at the end of the day.
You know, it's one extra step in the
Yeah.
right direction, but their entire lives for the last 20 years has been one step forward, two steps back. So it's a wait and see. You know, I think that Trump's going to sign this bill, whether it's tonight or tomorrow or whenever, and he's going to, you know, talk about how great it is and how he's signing it and how it's fantastic for the victims. And then we're going to have to just see what the Department of Justice does with it. Because if they refuse to release documents based on pending investigations or based upon a false premise of privacy issues regarding the victims, then I think that there may be some litigation that ensues based on this new law by the victims or by the general public, or maybe press outlets like yourself that says, listen, you need to follow this new law.
Yeah. But as we know, the Supreme Court has told him he can violate the law. So, you know, there is that. But, you know, you have to have hope in all of this. Well, Spencer Kuvin, always appreciate the time. Thank you very much. Sorry we popped in there a little too early. I don't think we caught anything that you didn't want us to
No,
hear.
you're all good. It was another lawyer on the phone.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you. And joining us now is Miami Herald investigative journalist Julie K. Brown. Julie, it's great to see you. I know you've been one of the leading reporters on this Epstein story for many years. And I just have to ask you, did you ever think Donald Trump would sign legislation authorizing the release of the Epstein files? What do you make of what we've seen this week?
Well, I didn't think he would do it unless he was under duress. Let's put it that way. I did think that after I saw the victims, as you know, put out a PSA
Right.
over the weekend, which was aired during Monday Night Football nationally. And when I saw that, I got chills, as most people did when they saw it. And I thought to myself, this is it. There's nobody that can vote against releasing these files after this. So
Yeah.
I did think that that was going to create, you know, a crack in the whole veneer of let's not release it, you know, for those who were objecting to releasing it.
Right. Well, and now I'm sure you know, I mean, the big question is how much does the Justice Department release? And we saw the Attorney General Pam Bondi saying yesterday, we'll follow the law, we'll follow the law. A lot of people took that as code words for trying to find loopholes in the law as to what can be released and what can be held back. What is your, what's your line of thinking on that, and how far the Justice Department can go in blocking some of these files from being released? I mean, I saw Thomas Massie put out a tweet saying, you know, and he's the Republican congressman who's led the charge on this, saying, you know, there's only so much they can hold back. They really can't hold back that much, according to the law.
Right. If you read the law, there's actually a lot of information in the law. You take time to read it.
Yeah.
There isn't I mean, even names that are in there, third party names, aren't supposed to be redacted. So, you know, the conversations that were made behind the scenes with prosecutors are fair game. There's an awful lot of things that are detailed in this law that says that they have to be released. So in my mind, it's going to be hard for them to find a way around it. But of course, I'm sure they will.
Yeah. And I guess, you know, you and I haven't spoken in a while. And to me, what was extraordinary was to see those emails released last week. I know folks have been saying the emails are not the same as what is, you know, contained in the Epstein files. These are emails primarily released by the Epstein estate, I believe. But there's this one email I want to draw your attention to. I've been talking about it on my show nonstop. I know other folks have been talking about it as well. It's from April 2011, and it's when Jeffrey Epstein says to Ghislaine Maxwell that Donald Trump is the dog that hasn't barked, and that Victim Redacted has spent hours at Epstein's house with Donald Trump. This, of course, this email came before he was a candidate for president, before he was really involved in national politics in a major way. What did you think about that? And what do you think about the fact that he's mentioned so many times in these emails that were released?
Well, first of all, you know, they didn't, as they often fail to do, they didn't properly redact these emails. There are places where they redact a name and then other places where you could see the name. And unfortunately, that victim's name is in there elsewhere, and I won't mention it. I think it's been mentioned. You can look it up. But
Yeah.
she has previously said that she had no sexual contact with Trump, and in fact that anytime she had been in his presence, he had been a gentleman. So I actually think that possibly Epstein was trying to introduce this because he wanted her, or was hoping she would say something.
Mm.
I mean, you have to, it's hard to know, it's out of context, but the point to me with all these emails is that Trump's name is mentioned more than anybody else, double anybody
Right.
else. Okay. And so it says something, if nothing else. It doesn't imply that he committed any wrongdoing, but if nothing else, it raises questions about his complicity and the complicity of a lot of other high-powered and important people who remained friends with him and even conducted business with him and traveled with him and had dinner with him, and apparently even shared women with him.
Mm.
During a time when we know that, for example, some of these women were coming out and saying this was a sex trafficking operation. This involved very powerful people. This involved a cover up. So, there was a lot of publicity in 2011 about Epstein, and this crime being a much bigger crime than was initially believed. So anyone who was associating with him after he pleaded guilty in 2008 should have, really thought about associated with him. There was a
Yeah.
great column by Tina Brown in the New York Times this past weekend, and
Hmm.
was talking about how she was invited to a party at his mansion, and she said some words to the effect like, "Are you crazy? That sounds like a pedophile party. I'm not going to that." So
Wow.
she certainly knew, and there were people that absolutely knew his reputation, and so it says something about these people, whether it's their judgment,
Yep.
and their morals, their who their moral fiber.
Yeah.
If
And it makes me wonder how much Donald Trump is panic stricken over the release of the files themselves. I was speaking with Spencer Kuvin, who has represented a number of these survivors, and he said they're probably surveillance tapes, there are probably recordings, there's all kinds of stuff in the files. It's not just documents and emails and that sort of a thing. And if I guess the reason why I bring up that April 2011 email is that, okay, maybe that particular victim, maybe there was nothing that was going on between Donald Trump and that particular person. But if you spent hours at the house, there must be, I would have to assume, surveillance footage of Donald Trump going in and out of that house. This is just me
don't know,
guessing.
right. And also I'm pretty sure there were wiretaps too at some point in these
Yeah.
cases. So we just don't know who is going to be implicated here. And just, to be honest with you, if you really look back at my social media, you'll see
Yeah.
that when he was running for re-election this past time, there was an awful lot of stuff on social media saying Trump, accusing Trump of being, a pedophile essentially, and saying that he was Jeffrey Epstein's wingman, blah, blah, blah. And
Mm.
I was saying, look, there's no evidence of that. I've never seen any evidence of that, at that point. And then when this all happened with Trump, I have to tell you, with the way that was handled with Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and the whole, we're going to release it. And then they release nothing. And then they say, forget it. There's nothing to see here.
Right.
That's when I thought there's something we don't know that's in there. There's
There's
something.
there's got to be some. It seems to me there's got to be something, and maybe you and I will both be proven wrong, but I don't think we will be. And there's also the way he's been behaving lately. I mean, there's the video, we can show this, of him calling Catherine Lucy of Bloomberg the other day piggy when she was asking about this. Let's play it and let's talk about it.
Epstein and I had a very bad relationship for many years, but he also saw a strike because I was president. So he dictated a couple of memos to himself. Give me a break. You're going to find out what did he know with respect to Bill Clinton, with respect to the head of Harvard, with respect to all of those people that he knew. J.P. Morgan Chase. Yeah, Jennifer, go ahead. Go ahead.
Incriminating in the file, sir. Why not why acting as a
Quiet.
I mean, I've seen some pretty outlandish Donald Trump behavior over the years. That is pretty close to as bad as I've ever seen it. And it's been a pattern. We've seen tweets from him. We've seen public statements from him where he just seems like he's coming unglued. And I'm just wondering, what do you think when you see that kind of stuff, having investigated this for so long, Julie?
I just can't explain it other
Yeah.
than there's something there, you know, because it doesn't make any sense. It's too over the top, you know, angry and frustrated. And, I've had people that, I'm not a political reporter. I'm not a White House reporter. So I have had a couple of people that are more covering those, beats, and they have said that this is kind of Trump in some ways because he never likes to be told that he's wrong. And here he's sort of everything that he's doing is not working here, and he's everything he's doing is really wrong.
Yeah.
He's not getting the results, let's put it this way, that he really wants. So part of the frustration, I'm sure, is that, but you have to wonder if part of the frustration is also that he's hiding something.
Yeah. I mean, and the way, I mean, the other thing that people haven't really zeroed in on in that video is the way he sort of completely glosses over, not sort of, completely glosses over his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. He says, oh, Jeffrey Epstein dictated a couple of memos to himself about me because he saw what a great president I was. But you really ought to look at Bill Clinton and Larry Summers. I mean, again, it looks like somebody whose hand has been caught in the cookie jar. And you, as an investigative reporter, I mean, we know if you got a nose for news, you know when something's up and you want to dig.
When someone acts like this, it usually makes me dig in harder because it means that I'm missing something. And I have to say, I feel like I've missed something, or we've missed something somewhere, because I just can't help thinking there's something really bad in there that he doesn't want out. And it might not even be about him. It might be about somebody close to him. It might be about Melania. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the rumors that are out there that somehow we heard before that he had that Epstein had introduced Melania to Trump, and now we're hearing maybe they dated each other, and you can connect the dots with what's coming next. So maybe it has something to do with that.
Right. And there's this whole fight between Michael Wolff and Melania. And and you indicated this earlier, there's this whole network of very noteworthy people who have, been involved with Jeffrey Epstein over the years. We just saw Larry Summers, my goodness, just acknowledge in public that what he had done was wrong. And he's pulled himself out of the public eye, basically in shame over all of this. And I saw you were posting about this too. And I think this is a very important thing too. Senator Wyden from Oregon has been working on this investigation. The Senate Finance Committee apparently issued a report calling for an investigation into whether J.P. Morgan Chase deliberately underreported more than $1 billion in suspicious transactions by Jeffrey Epstein. And, and it talks about the bank's 15-year relationship with Epstein and so on. And so, I mean, we focus on Trump because he's the president of the United States. Of course, we're going to do that. But the tentacles coming out of this is just so far reaching. I don't think the public understands how far this goes.
Well, also the blackmail aspect of it here.
Yeah.
You don't know, since you don't know how compromised people are here, whether there's some other individual who might possibly be blackmailing Trump, some other individual that's been put into a very cozy Club Med in Texas now, what that person might have on the president. And so all this is really, I mean, it's just coming to, it's like he can't get away from it, because the more he tries to get away from it, the more that comes out, it feels like, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like to me, the more he tries to evade it, it's still completely baffling to me that from the get-go, when he decided we can't let this out, why, instead of closing the freaking case, they didn't just announce, look, it's still under open investigation. We're looking at some things.
Yeah,
And nobody really could. I mean, they could have done some stuff, but when you have an open investigation, that's usually the way that authorities get away with not releasing records because it's an open investigation. So I'm just
right.
surprised they didn't take that tact from the very beginning.
That's right. And now Pam Bondi is saying, well, we're investigating Democrats. And of course, we can see the thought bubble over her head. We're going to use that as the precursor for not releasing any of the Epstein files. And it just looks like blatantly obvious, as to how underhanded that is and how it just looks suspicious. If that's the approach they're going to take now, you're right. If they had done this months ago, it would have been a completely different situation. And they've just totally walked into this. But I just wonder, you bring up Ghislaine Maxwell. She's another person we haven't really spent a lot of time talking about in recent days because of all the focus on the files and this vote and so on. And she's still sitting there waiting for this commutation or pardon. And I wonder what you think. Does it make it more likely or less likely that we're going to see that happen now as Trump he sounds like he's getting more and more desperate. So I wonder if maybe we will see something. Yeah.
I don't think he's going to do it now, but I do think he's going to do it. I think he's going to pardon her. I think the fact that he will not say he won't pardon her,
Right.
why would you not just say, no, I'm not pardoning her. She was convicted of a serious crime. She hurt all these young girls. He's not saying. So I do think that he's going to pardon her. But yeah, she bears really looking at because she knows everything. She knows everything. And I think she has a lot of emails and a lot of material to back up what she knows as well. She had plenty of material because Epstein was arrested and she went sort of AWOL for a whole year. I was told actually she was in a submarine at one point hiding.
Whoa.
And well, remember, she was in the oceans business, saving the oceans.
Okay.
And she was affiliated with this organization that absolutely had submarines. And so in any event, it was a whole year before they actually arrested her. So she had time to gather her goods, so to speak, and to get her papers in order. So,
and that's the other thing that the emails revealed is what a liar she was to Todd Blanche. And I mean, Todd Blanche, it seems to me now, and it was pretty evident back when this all went down, when he did this interview with her, that, she was not going to be straight up about this. And they did not want her to be straight up about this. And the interview went accordingly before she was moved.
Right. Yeah, it's if this was happening in any other administration, Obama or anybody, Bush, I mean, there would be impeachment hearings already. I mean, this is kind of, we're in new territory here with it's almost like they are testing the bounds of American democracy here in our Constitution. And I don't know if we're winning this war or losing it because it seems like we just keep allowing them, to manipulate the DOJ, to manipulate the FBI, to go after enemies, including colleges and college students who are exercising their free speech rights. I mean, it just feels like we're living in a different kind of government time, an authoritarian time. And I never thought, to be honest with you, I never thought I would see something like this in my lifetime.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. And the way they have handled this Epstein case, you're absolutely right, is unlike any other administration in the way it would have handled this that we've ever seen in our history. This is, it is just an obvious departure from the way our system of justice is supposed to work. And so you have to assume all bets are off. And you have to just wonder how low will they go. And, I know people say, oh, you shouldn't say the walls are closing in anymore or there are cracks under Trump's feet or anything like that. Sure as heck seems like something's happening.
Yeah, it does. It feels like there are cracks, and it feels like he's digging into those cracks and kind of making them wider with
That's
some
right.
of the things that he's doing. So it like when you made the announcement that you're signing this bill, the screed that he said, it was just wildly inappropriate. I mean, you
Yeah,
have girls that were abused here. I mean, raped,
correct. Right.
you know, even if you do think it's a political hoax, that's not really the time to do that.
Yeah.
Just say, I hope that this somehow brings more information to light. And he could have done it as a thing like, here I am, the most transparent president. We know that's not true, but his followers probably would have bought it. And so I think, he's just making it worse every day.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these women, by the way, voted for him. Some of these
That's
survivors.
right. I spoke to one just the other day. I was up at this press conference up on Capitol Hill the other day, and I spoke with Jenna Lisa Jones, I believe is her name. And she was saying, I voted for him. And she was saying, I can't tell you how disappointed and outraged I am over
Her
how he's handled it.
her comments. She was featured in the series that I wrote in
Yeah.
2018, and her comments were just unbelievably powerful.
Yeah.
Really,
There she is.
yeah,
Devastating. She said he was a national embarrassment.
embarrassment.
And I was
National,
standing
yeah.
right there, and I saw Marjorie Taylor Greene nodding her head in agreement. Did you ever think you would see that? I didn't.
I didn't really, but now that we know what's going on, I kind
Yeah.
of, I mean, you have to give it to her that she's understanding this moment,
Yes,
trying to be on the right side of history.
correct.
So you have to give her that,
No question. Well, Julie, excellent work on your part. Just keep digging, as you were saying earlier. We just got to keep digging in all of this. But thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Take care. And Jenna Lisa, I heard your comments there. You were talking about how you voted for Donald Trump.
I voted for you, but your behavior on this issue has been a national embarrassment.
What are your thoughts today, and what he's been up to in terms of trying to block the release of the files? It sounds like that's been a real disappointment to you.
Well, the whole reason on voting for voting for him was that he ran his campaign so hard on the release of these files, and we had been fighting for so long to get these files out that I was like, dang, all right, he's going to really take these people down. So I really thought that he was going to stick by what he said. And then now we're just playing this back and forth game, and it's really heartbreaking because you ran your campaign on this, and it's really just as simple as that he could release these files and just do it himself, and he has chosen to drag this out and make it a political thing when it didn't need to be.
And it feels like a broken promise to you.
It is a broken promise, so
Yeah.
we'll wait.
And why do you think he's been this way this whole time, like trying to block it up until now? Why do you think that is?
He has to be trying to protect other people or doesn't want something to come out, because there should be no other reason why he wouldn't want it released, right? Like, wouldn't he want to take down the nasty, ugly people that are involved in our government and powerful people? I think that he would. I don't think he would want to have all these horrible people, hiding behind in the dark.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you very much, Jenna Lisa. Thank you. The thing that everybody's talking about right now is that Trump has said, oh, no, you can go ahead and do it after months and months of delays and calling it a hoax. And so he even called it a hoax again today while he's indicating that he's okay with this. What are your thoughts on all this? Because, I mean, to me, this doesn't add up.
It's very strange. Why would they waste so much political capital on this story to then eventually cow down? I think he's playing catch up. I don't think he wanted it to go this way. I think he realizes this is what's going to happen. And I saw it last week. I'm sure you did too. Once you saw Don Bacon, Burchett, Stu, but like a handful of Republicans said that they were going to have to vote to release the files if it actually came down to the floor. It's just too tough of a vote. I mean, very rarely do 90% of people agree on anything, like including that the earth is round. I mean, so they all realize that this is something that they are going to have to vote on. And President Trump, realizing that this is not a train he can stop, is following them, which shows that he's losing grip, I think, on his party. And also in his fight with Marjorie Taylor Greene, as he likes to call her, when you look at X, if you want to stick your head in that cesspool, you notice that a lot of the followers of Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene, they're really siding with her in this fight. And
They are.
Yeah. So I think they're starting to catch on that online wars that he's losing them right now. Even if he releases the files, does the DOJ actually release them in full, or does it redact a lot of it? Because
Right.
they're not very good at self-policing, as we know. And we already have a number of files on the FBI's website right now. They're just all black lines. So
Yes.
that's what I think. And that's why, as much as everyone's like, it's going to be a treasure trove, it's going to be Pandora's box, I worry that people are going to be disappointed in the level,
Yeah.
what they consider to be sensitive information. And maybe
No, I agree. Who knows, what he thinks he's answered yes to, but that was not very clear cut to me. And he's still trying to point the fingers everywhere but himself, especially at Democratic figures.
Yeah, I mean, Trump was a Democrat when he was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. So, like, we all have to remember that.
Yeah,
He
that's
was
true.
writing checks to Hillary Clinton and Chuck Schumer. And this is why Jeffrey Epstein could brag so much about the fact that he was friends with Donald Trump. I mean, he wasn't really a political guy until I think around 2000. Well, he's always been political. Like, he's always thought that he
Yeah.
could run because of his, whatever you want to call
He
it.
flirted with the
He's still in
Reform
the
Party
blank.
back around
Yeah,
2000.
he's fill in the blank, whatever it is about his personality that makes him think that he could lead people. But, when did he really become a Republican? When he latched onto the birther movement, I would think,
Exactly.
right? With the
And then he
Obama
came out
birth-
and endorsed Romney in 2012. But yeah, that was in that time frame. Exactly. That's right.
Yeah. So let's remember that. And yeah, there's terrible things about Democrats in those files for sure, based on
Sure.
what we already know. Virginia Giuffre, what she said about Senator Bill Richardson, Senator Mitchell. I mean, she said that she was trafficked to them. And these are prominent Democratic senators, colleagues of former, President Joe Biden, which I've always wondered if that was part of the reason why the files never came forward, was because that even in Virginia's depositions alone, she had these really damning details about prominent Democrats, prominent Democratic donors. But at the same time, a lot of people who were Democrats, a part of the tech, the tech Illuminati, the techno oligarchy, whatever you want to call them, Peter Thiel, the Sergey Brins, that entire circle. I mean, they're all Republicans now. And even
Yes.
Elon Musk, he was hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. You saw on the calendar, they said, well, Elon may come to the island. We're not sure. So
Right.
everyone who was a Democrat then is now a Republican. So I don't really think it matters anymore.
Yeah, and Reid Hoffman put out a statement. We should point out he tweet over the weekend that this is false, what's being said about him and so on. But Trump has been pointing the finger at him. He's been pointing the finger at Larry Summers. I mean, but it's kind of irrelevant, right, from the standpoint of the survivors, Tara, because they're not partisan in this. They want these files released.
Yes.
They want the truth to come out. They want justice. Doesn't matter if it's Democrats are in there, Republicans in there. And the other thing that Tara, you and I should talk about is the emails that came out last week. Not been able to do a show. You and I have not been able to do a show since that happened. But I saw your comments out there that this is not the files, that the emails are not the files. It's not the same thing. The files, there's a lot more in the files.
Yeah, I mean, some of these emails will probably be in the files because they would have been used in discovery for various cases. But the files are, way more expansive, as we know, 330 gigabytes apparently, and we've only gotten 1% of them so far. These are just emails from the estate. We're just putting pieces together based on Jeffrey Epstein's correspondence, not even during the period in which he was prosecuted. We don't even know why he got the sweetheart deal based on these files. And so we're just putting it all together right now. And
so what the Justice Department is holding back, what Trump is holding back, is a whole lot more. Could be pictures, could be videos.
Oh,
right?
definitely. Well, I know that from Virginia. I mean, she said that she was brought into the FBI's headquarters and that they showed her pictures of girls with men because everything was being recorded. She was asked to try to identify her body. She couldn't. There's video footage. There are real files. And that was even in the pictures, like the New York Times, when they went in there and took pictures, you could see there were little cameras all over the house. This was his KGB tactic style. So I think everybody needs to understand that there's a lot in there. And that's why I'm very dubious about how much we're actually going to see from files. I've always been very dubious and suspicious of this. I think ultimately the truth comes out through a whistleblower, and then that person's going to have to leave the country for a really long time, unfortunately, because
I I agree with you. And then there's what Congressman Thomas Massey was saying over the weekend. He was saying that he doesn't buy what Trump is saying, no matter what, basically, no matter what he says, because they've Trump has already ordered an investigation into Democratic figures by the Justice Department. Pam Bondi has apparently said that she's going to do this. And Thomas Massey was saying over the weekend on one of the Sunday talk shows that, well, they may not be able to open up the Epstein files if there are open investigations now into, let's say, Larry Summers or Bill Clinton or whatever.
Yeah, that's a very convenient way to close. You went from case closed, there are no third parties, to guess what? We're reopening it again based on some emails. It's all so shady. I mean, everybody in that Justice Department. How can anyone trust anyone in the Justice Department right now? You've got Pam Bondi running the place saying, I've got the Epstein files on my desk. Then months later, there are no Epstein files. There were no third parties. There was nothing. Case closed. It's all a figment of our imaginations. Okay. Yeah. And by the way, that's impossible. The depositions of the girls, which are publicly available even right now, show that there are other men that they accuse of being trafficked to. So it's you can't say that this is all some sort of figment of the imagination, unless you are saying that a witness testimony is not evidence. And in that case, you are literally saying that these people do not matter, that what they are saying is not applicable, it is not permissible. And that is what they have been saying. I mean, FBI Director Kash Patel admitted that he did not read witness testimony. Neither did Alex Acosta. None of these men care about what happened to these women. They do not care about their accounts. Their accounts are not valid, which shows you exactly how they think about this story, how they value sorry, Jim, it just gets me kind of worked up, but
no, me too.
How they value victims, how they value these women. It's the power imbalance. The Justice Department is supposed to be working for the people, but instead they are silencing them. And these women are just knocking on the door, begging. And now they're going back to Washington this week. They made this beautiful video.
We should play that video.
I'm
mad we have the video. Let's play the video and let's talk about it. Because to me, this video is extraordinary.
I know.
I suffered so much pain.
So much pain.
So much pain.
I suffered so much pain. I was 14 years old.
I was 16 years old.
I was 16.
17.
14 years old.
This is me.
This was me.
This is me.
When I met Jeffrey Epstein.
This is me when I met Jeffrey Epstein.
There are about 1,000 of us.
It's time to bring the secrets out of the shadows. It's time to shine a light into the darkness.
Yeah, that's cool. And that is from Lisa Bryant, who was the producer of the Filthy Rich Epstein documentaries. I actually worked with her on the second one on Ghislaine Maxwell, since I've done a lot of reporting on Ghislaine. I have a podcast on her. Well, I have 2 podcasts, but one's on Jeffrey, the other one's on Ghislaine. And I'm really, really, really proud of them. I obviously know a lot of these survivors really well. Jenna, who was holding up, she's visibly shaking. She was wearing the brown shirt.
Yeah.
Really looks young with the hoop earrings. I mean, when I first met her back in 2019, I mean, she struggled to sit through a dinner with me. It was really hard for her. I don't think people understand how many of these women end up having drug problems, committing suicide, having severe mental problems after being trafficked so young. My heart broke for them. Courtney Wild came to his doorstep 14 with braces on, and she, ended up spending all of the money that she won from a civil case with him, which was I don't know how many, maybe $1 million. She blew it, but on drugs to not feel. And then she ends up in prison. She's the one who ends up in actual prison, a real prison, not a county jail, like what Epstein stayed in. And she fought from prison for the Crime Victims' Rights Act to fight to reverse that sweetheart deal, claiming that they were never notified of this Crime Victims' Rights Act, that they were never notified of the sweetheart deal, and therefore the case needs to be overturned. And it just breaks my heart that she spent more time in prison than Jeffrey Epstein, because the money, she said, made her feel like she was just being paid over and over and over again. It made her feel like she was a prostitute. And he offered her lawyers, he offered all these girls lawyers, telling them that they were the teenage prostitutes and that they needed representation, and he could help them. And a lot of them took the lawyers.
God.
Courtney did originally, because they were so young. They didn't know any better. They were groomed. They were manipulated. They had no home. They came from broken homes. And they had no self-esteem. They didn't even think they were worth fighting for. And it wasn't until Courtney read her best friend's deposition, who had brought her to Epstein's house, that she decided that she was going to fight, and she was going to make sure that he spent the rest of his life in jail. And she did it from behind bars. And now the Crime Victims' Rights Act, she was there with Nancy Pelosi when it was finally unveiled. And it was like a huge, when I see her, I'm just so proud of her. I did a bunch of episodes just on her because her story is incredible. Some broken Jeffrey Epstein, but yeah, this is a podcast I did with Julie K. Brown and Adam McKay. And it's just, this is a really big moment for them. And I could see when I was there on the Hill, they were just like, they were glowing. They were so happy. They felt like they had some power again. And I think this is what the story is about, these women taking back power.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And the heartbreaking, there's so many heartbreaking parts of that video for such a short video is, they say I was 14, I was 15, and there was this Megyn Kelly thing last week where she was trying to redefine, what, I don't know what the hell she was doing, but there shouldn't even be a conversation about this. When girls are that young, I don't get that. I don't understand where that comes from. This like trying to justify or explain it away thing that people do. And she was trying to do it late last. I just thought it was
heinous. It
heinous.
Really was. Jim, I made a video. It just like hit me really hard while I was working on I had a magazine piece due, and I had this, and I was writing, and I was going on these shows. And it just hit me. I was like, oh my God. When I worked on the Epstein podcast and the magazine pieces for it, I remembered listening to the voices of these girls talking to the detective Ricari. He was the Palm Beach detective who worked on this case relentlessly, by the way. And when I heard their voices, I was like, oh my God, these girls are so young. I have to get the audio of these voices and play them on my short, on my reel, wherever I can put it out so people can hear, so that they're not confused by what Megyn Kelly is saying. And I remember that one of the girls called his penis a wee-wee. Like that is how young she was. They were. And so I put it out on a reel, and, people really responded to it, because I think that's what was so brilliant about that video, is that you see their faces, you hear their voices. You have to be reminded that, yes, they're adult women now, but they were children then. And there are a lot of apologists out there for Jeffrey Epstein, believe it or not. And they say like these girls were teenage prostitutes. Literally the crime that he pled guilty to was, I think the word teen and prostitute were the same. It was soliciting a 14-year-old for prostitution.
Right.
So as if a teen could be a prostitute. So it was just reinforcing over and over again that these girls were in the wrong, that they had done something wrong. And so I feel like it felt like it came over me. I'm like, I got to get this out there. I got to get the sound out. And honestly, Megyn Kelly should go listen to the sound. She should go listen to those girls' depositions.
Yes.
She should hear what they had to say, what they went through, and hear it in their voices as kids. They're like, there were girls there, and they're children. There's nothing sophisticated about them. A lot of them were poor girls. He created a pyramid scheme inside of a high school.
Right. Well, she wouldn't be talking that way, Megyn Kelly, if we were talking about somebody else besides Donald Trump.
Right.
And she's just doing this because, and maybe that is some of the good news that we're seeing, develop over the last, couple of days, which is he's just running out of he's running out of real estate here. He's running out of runway on this. He's lost Marjorie Taylor Greene. He's attacking Marjorie Taylor Greene. They
Right.
tried to bring in Lauren Boebert to the Situation Room, and that didn't work.
So that she could have her phone on. And how intimidating too, right? They're trying to look, it's like a shakedown.
It's a
don't know how to
shakedown.
describe it.
And it didn't work. And now the word on the street is that it may be a near unanimous vote in the House of Representatives. I can't think of the last time anything was a near unanimous vote when it was something that was once this contentious. And, you know, it's extraordinary to me. And I don't know how they can vote against it in the Senate either if it comes out of the House like gangbusters, which is the way it's going to look. It's going to look like a jailbreak.
No, and you know what? I did a big like investigation on Lisa Murkowski, the senator from Alaska, and how she had this really tangled web of connections to Ghislaine Maxwell, and they spent a lot of time together. And she voted against releasing the Epstein files in September on the day that Charlie Kirk was murdered. Well, last night she made it clear that she'll be voting to release the files. So this is a really big deal, everybody. And I think not, you know.
I think I'm going to go up there because I think they're going to be, some of these folks are going to be running scared. They're still going to be running from the cameras. It's going to be very interesting to observe the behavior up there, up on Capitol Hill, because there were a lot of Republicans who were just dead against this. They didn't want to, they didn't, they were going to line up behind Trump, and it fell apart. It fell apart for Donald Trump. And he's still freaking out. We have the video from, I think it was Friday evening, or was it Friday? Or maybe it was it might have been last night. He was still getting pissed. Yeah, it was he got pissed off at somebody Friday night. I posted that video. But this is last night. He freaks out at a reporter. I believe they're leaving Palm Beach, and he's being asked about Thomas Massey and what he's been saying about how, you know, this is, you know, they're still trying to play games over there. He calls her fake news. Listen to the way he treats this reporter. He's still freaking out.
Massey says he's concerned that the Epstein probe you are calling for could be a smokescreen to block the release of more files. Is that the case?
Well, I don't want to talk about it because fake news like you're a terrible reporter, and fake news like you, they just keep bringing that up to deflect from the tremendous success of the Trump administration. So a guy like Massey, his poll numbers are showing he's at 6% approval rating right now. And we call him Rand Paul Jr. because he never votes for the Republican Party. So they're using Jeffrey Epstein as a deflection from the tremendous success that we're having as a party.
Yeah. I mean, Tara, to me, I know his behavior when he acts that way. He knows he's in trouble. It's not looking good, you know. And that's when he starts to flip out like that, call people fake news.
I mean, yes. You've been there. We've all been there.
Yeah.
And
so something's up. I mean, you and I did not talk about the emails last week. Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No. I just feel like he's losing his grip. That's what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah. And what did you make of that 2011 email where, you know, Jeffrey Epstein is saying he was over at my house for hours with victim redacted? They alleged there were allegations that it was Virginia Giuffre. Until I see the email without the redaction there, I don't believe what anybody says. I just want to see it for myself. Yeah. But how does he spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house and there not be something untoward going on? It just seems to me, that email is just so damning.
Yeah, no, it's really something else. Especially because it wasn't exchanged to be one day dug up by a House Oversight Committee or to be revealed. These are just two people having a conversation, Bonnie and Clyde, casual, preparing, trying to collude actually about how to handle their own cases. And they're wondering, how did Donald Trump not get caught in all of this? So it's like, it's really something.
We'll see.
I think you can't be friends with someone for decades and not know what they're up to. It's like, yeah, we were in the same town together. He wasn't even a member this whole time. They've been saying he's a member of Mar-a-Lago.
Right. And then Epstein says one of these emails.
He wasn't. So they were so close. He didn't need a membership. I mean, what?
Right. Something does not make sense.
I don't believe anything that comes out of the White House because of the fact that I was told that there is literally no omerta on Jeffrey Epstein. And so they cannot ask him questions about it. Trump doesn't want to talk about it. Like, you know,
Oh,
what it's like
interesting.
with aides, where they don't want to ask tough questions of Trump, how to respond to the press. So it's like, it's bullshit. It's a hoax. It's this, that, you know, and then that's it. So I just don't believe any of the stories they make up. I just like, yeah, okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. And this thing that they're doing now where he says, oh yeah, I'm in favor of it. Go ahead and vote for it. This is his latest coping mechanism. The next coping mechanism would be completely different. He's just making this up as he goes along. It just seems to me, and he's going to keep flipping out. He's going to be dragged kicking and screaming every step of the way. And that's why you just can't buy it, in my view, until there's a full release of the files. Tara Palmeri, as always. Oh, sorry. Did you want to make one last comment?
No, I was just agreeing with you. This is just, it's insane. But thank you for having me, Jim. And I appreciate your dedication to the story. You've been really all over it. And it's
you too. No, not as much as you. I've just, to me, like, it's obvious he's hiding something. It's obvious they're hiding something. And you can't hide this. This is not something that should be hidden.
Yeah.
When it involves the President of the United States or really any powerful figure or anybody.
No.
And make sure to follow Tara's reporting on Substack, all of the socials. You have a very important Substack, Tara, and everybody needs to follow it. So we appreciate it as always.
Yours too. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tara. Great to see you. Really appreciate it. I don't know if you guys saw this, but the White House defended the piggy comments. Let's play this. Caroline Leavitt defending Trump calling a reporter piggy. Let's roll it.
What did the president mean when he called a reporter piggy?
Look, the president is very frank and honest with everyone in this room. You've all seen it yourself. You've all experienced it yourselves. And I think it's one of the many reasons that the American people reelected this president, because of his frankness. And he calls out fake news when he sees it. He gets frustrated with reporters when you lie about him, when you spread fake news about him and his administration. But he also is the most transparent president in history. And he gives all of you in this room, as you all know, unprecedented access. You are in the Oval Office almost every day asking the president questions. And so I think the president being frank and open and honest to your faces rather than hiding behind your backs is frankly a lot more respectful than what you saw in the last administration, where you had a president who lied to your face and then didn't speak to you for weeks and hid upstairs and didn't take your questions. So I think everyone in this room should appreciate the frankness and the openness that you get from President Trump on a near daily basis.
How many times did she rehearse that in the mirror? That's what I'm wondering, before she unloaded that pile of bullshit in the White House briefing room. Calling a journalist piggy is not openness and frankness. It is offensive and appalling. And it's conduct unbecoming of a president of the United States. And Caroline Leavitt, if she had her head screwed on straight, she would know that. But she doesn't these days. She's the gaslighter. She's the chief gaslighter, the minister of misinformation for Donald Trump. And, the reason why, and the questions are not fake news. The questions are about the Epstein files. That's what pissed him off and led him to call Catherine Lucy piggy. But, folks, that's the job of the press. Look at the story that we're covering today that is leading all the newscasts. It's at the top of all the news sites. I talked about it at the beginning of this program. Donald Trump threatening to go after Democratic lawmakers for what he calls seditious behavior. Seditious behavior punishable by death. Dude, get a grip. You're coming unglued. And why is he becoming unglued? Why is he coming apart at the seams? Because of the Epstein files, because he just signed a bill he didn't want to sign, that his hand was forced. It was almost an auto pen that was needed to sign the Epstein files bill. But we have to take it seriously. When the president of the United States responds to Democratic lawmakers who served in the military saying, members of the military should not follow unlawful orders, and he calls that seditious behavior punishable by death, we have to take note of it. We can't just laugh it off. It's serious business. And to me, it is yet another example that the president of the United States is not playing with a full deck. He does not have both oars in the water. His elevator ain't hitting all floors. And it is a question that needs to be dealt with here in the nation's capital. It needs to be dealt with by the Republican Party. Your president, Donald J. Trump, is coming apart at the seams. And every day there's another reminder that he is out to lunch and probably out of his mind. And this is yet another example. Now, the problem in all of this is that this trickles down to the rest of the administration. This insane behavior, un-American behavior, trickles down to the rest of the administration. For example, story in the Washington Post just today: the U.S. Coast Guard will no longer classify swastikas and nooses as hate symbols. Have you guys seen this story? Apparently, the Department of Homeland Security has already said, oh, no, this is not what's happening. This is not what's happening. But this is what the Washington Post story says. The Washington Post story says the U.S. Coast Guard will no longer classify the swastika, an emblem of fascism and white supremacy, inextricably linked to the murder of millions of Jews and that of more than 400,000 U.S. troops died fighting against in World War II, as a hate symbol. Instead, the Coast Guard will classify the swastika as, quote, potentially divisive under its new guidelines. And that also downgrades the definition of nooses and the Confederate flag. Now, folks, I mean, we're hitting a new low in this administration when our own Coast Guard will no longer classify swastikas as hate symbols. You know, just the other day, I was speaking to a group of students over at Georgetown, and I asked them, have you guys heard about this Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes thing? Tucker Carlson has Nick Fuentes on. Nick Fuentes is a Nazi, and I asked these students. I said, you guys, there's a group of about 20 kids, college students. I said, you guys understand that Nazis are bad, right? And they all nodded their heads. Yes, we all know that Nazis are bad. Thank God. And the young people in this country, I sound so old when I say but the young people in this country, college students, young adults, teenagers, Gen Z, whatever comes after Gen Z, that generation, they get it. They get it with this president. And they get it with what's going on inside this administration. And it is absolutely appalling and un-American that any effort would ever be made to water down the significance of the swastika inside the American government. This government, which sent an entire generation of Americans to storm the beaches of Normandy, to liberate the world from the darkness of Nazis, that this same government would ever think to downgrade the significance of Nazis as potentially divisive is as disgusting as it comes. And to me, there are a lot of people today saying, well, Donald Trump going after members of Congress and saying sedition and punishable by death, this means he should be thrown out of office. This means he should be impeached and convicted. I will go one step further. If the American government will somehow downgrade the significance of the swastika, that too should be an impeachable defense. And whoever the head of the Coast Guard is should be hauled in front of Congress. And Kristi Noem should have her ass hauled in front of Congress. Any Department of Homeland Security who has any authority over this should have their ass hauled in front of Congress to ask, what in the world are you doing talking about downgrading the significance of the swastika and saying that it's potentially divisive? And I want to tell you, because this Nazi shit has come up over and over again with this new administration, this new Trump 2.0. And you need to know, if you are a Nazi working in this government, and if you are a Nazi sycophant who supports this government, just know there are more of us than there are of you. There are more of us than there are of you. And this country will never, ever be run by Nazis. And you want to know who the pigs are? You want to get down in the mud and talk about who the pigs are? The pigs are the Nazis. And anybody who supports Nazism, anybody who would give aid and comfort to Nazism, you are a pig. Because Nazis are pigs. And so let that be the conversation about piggies and pigs. Any administration that would ever downgrade the significance and say it's potentially divisive to have a swastika visible on a Coast Guard ship, their ass should be fired. And anybody inside this administration who authorized this should have their ass hauled in front of a committee to answer to Congress immediately. That, to me, is an impeachable offense. Still reporting from Washington, I'm Jim Acosta. Have a good evening. I'll see you next time.
This is who you're fighting for. This is who Congress is fighting for. This is who the House of Representatives are fighting for. And hopefully the Senate will fight for us too.
This fight belongs to us. We lived it, and we know the truth. And we will not wait quietly for institutions to decide when we're allowed to speak. The survivors now coming forward have entrusted us with their stories. We are sharing that information with the proper authorities, and when it can safely be made public, it will be.
A little reminder that this was me at 14 years old. I was a child. I was in 9th grade. I was hopeful for life and what the future had held for me. He stole a lot from me.
I was only 14 when I first encountered Jeffrey Epstein, and my daughter is now almost at that age.
One of us, who has spoken several times, decided she couldn't come because of the threats. She was too scared. So I want to say, when you threaten one of us, you're threatening all of us.
Yep.
We are together now, and that's never going to change. This is me at 16 when I met Jeffrey Epstein.
And I'm standing here today with a truth that still scares me to say out loud. I'm going to put this down because I can't hold both, as you guys saw. But that was me when I was 14, when I met Jeffrey Epstein.
This was me at 17 years old.
My name is Sky Roberts, and I stand before you as the brother of Virginia Roberts Giuffre, a warrior, a mother, and a sister whose legacy will forever resonate in the hearts of those who understand the fight against injustice.
This is me when I met Jeffrey Epstein in 1991. I always share the date when I talk about my story because people rarely acknowledge how long this has actually been going on.